Would you rather watch your parents have sex every day for the rest of your life or join in once and stop it forever? Viewers, this comment by YouTuber Ranveer Allabadia has ignited a firestorm of criticism, and rightfully so. The backlash isn't just about the words themselves, but what they represent. A growing trend of content creators pushing boundaries without regard for the impact of their influence. Viewers, Allahabadia, with a massive following across platforms, isn't just another internet personality. He's a figure who's recognized and celebrated. I mean, he isn't a random nobody spouting off in a corner of the internet. This is someone with a platform that shapes minds, particularly the young ones. Viewers, there are many who would say that this is just dark humor, a staple of shows on YouTube. They would say that outrage is overblown, that people are too sensitive, and that freedom of speech must allow for edgy and even offensive content. Now, while there's some truth in it, here's the thing. Comedy often treads uncomfortable ground, and not every bad joke warrants a public execution. But this isn't about comedy. This is about a deliberate choice to invoke imagery so grotesque and disrespectful that it alienates and disgusts rather than entertains. Viewers, the question wasn't just crass. It was a violation of a basic social contract. Parents, family and personal dignity are not punchlines. When you have a platform as vast as Allahabadia's, your words carry weight. They don't just disappear into the ether. They influence, normalize, mainstream and sometimes degrade. Viewers, the counter-argument is where the real weight lies. Critics have pointed out that this isn't just about one bad joke. It's about a pattern of content creators stooping low for clicks, views and revenue. Their argument that this kind of content isn't even flagged as adult material, meaning it's accessible to children. Because viewers, platforms like YouTube are driven by algorithms and they don't care about decency, they care about engagement. And when creators like Ranveer Allabadia, who has the ear of millions, choose shock over substance, they drag the entire creative economy down with them. Viewers, Allahabadia's apology, where he admitted a lapse in judgment and said comedy isn't his forte, feels hollow to many. It's not about comedy, it's about responsibility. When you command an audience of millions, you don't get to play the I didn't mean it card. You are not just a guy making a bad joke, you are a cultural force. And with that comes a duty to draw your own lines, not wait for the law or the public outrage to do it for you. Viewers, complaints have been filed and legal action may follow. I'm not sure, but I'm not in favor of punishment. I'm only underlining responsibility and boundaries. You heard the comments. Let's open this up. Dr. Vikram Singh, former DGP Uttar Pradesh. Abha Singh, lawyer and activist. Karan, Varma, political analyst. Ishtaran Bhandari on the show. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, needs no introduction, free speech absolutist, completes the panel. Dear Dr. Ranganathan, before I come to you, I quickly want to go around the panel and, begin with Dr. Singh. Dr. Vikram Singh, this comment or, this content has triggered outrage. I'm sure you are aware of
I'm aware.
The reaction. What do you make of this?
Good evening, Pranesh ji, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm absolutely incensed by the irresponsible conduct of Allahabadia. And he has no reason to behave the manner in which he did. It is absolutely crass, indecent, would in fact be indecent to the word indecent in itself. He has broken all norms of decency, propriety, and dignified behavior. And to that extent, I would say that his upbringing has been faulty. There are no bad soldiers. There are only bad individuals like him. And if there are bad individuals, I dare say where the parents have failed, the police need to take over. And the police are adept at chastising, teaching, counseling such deviants. When I say deviants, I mean every word of it. That he's a deviant and the police are specialized in handling deviants like Allahabadis. 24 hours in a police station, and I dare say with a good inspector, with a good lady officer, I think he'll be chastised for a lifetime. I'm sure you would have understood the meaning of what I have said and what I will leave unsaid, lest I be bracketed with Allahabadia. He is one obnoxious person, a freak, and person who needs to be dealt with under 296 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Indecent Representation of Women's Act. And if I were the police commissioner, even under the provisions of the National Security Act for promoting this kind of a nonsensical humbug, which indeed must have given some tickle to the perverts like him. But as far as decent people are concerned, people who are absolutely incensed by this kind of conduct, there are things that are never brought out in public domain. And there's one person, Pranesh, who said, he said, we cannot have some people like Middle East mullahs. Who is being a Middle East mullah? I'm sure the people sitting on your panel are those, if they had repeated these sentences in the knowledge of their parents, they would have been in the other world. I'm sure of that. Thank you, Pranesh.
As we speak, viewers, the Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma has put out a tweet. He says that the Guwahati police have registered an FIR against YouTubers. 5 people have been named: Ashish Chanchalani, Jaspreet Singh, Apurva Makhija, Ranveer Allahbadia and Samay Raina for promoting obscenity, engaging in sexually explicit and vulgar discussion. So let's see what happens here. But Ms. Abha Singh, do you agree with what Dr. Vikram Singh said?
Absolutely, I agree with him, because this is absolutely uncalled for. In fact, I would say it is a depraved, prurient, lascivious comment. And if you go by the section 67 of the IT Act, something like this, which is going to deprave the mindsets of people who are watching, who are in that tender stage, it is even worse. And it talks of punishment that talks of 3 years imprisonment with a 5 lakh fine. And a second incident, it says 5 years imprisonment and fine increased to 10 lakhs. So when the law is so clear about it, I am appalled and shocked that these stand-up comedians, forget Ranveer Allahbadia, even some of the other stand-up comedians, for cheap publicity, for their raking in money, they have gone to the cheapest level by coming up with such cheap jokes. And this statement breaks all boundaries of decency, it breaks all boundaries of culture. It attacks the very institution of marriage, which is considered so pure and ritual. You are talking like that about your parents. You are giving children such wrong ideas, even though he has apologized. But he has committed an offense. So if these FIRs are registered, I would like the police to act upon it, and so that a standard is set. So it is a lesson to all these YouTubers and comedians who think, in fact, if you remember the AIB roast, I was the lawyer in that, and we had got FIR registered on the likes of Deepika Padukone and Karan Johar, and after that we did not have roast type comments anywhere. But again, I think people have a short memory, they've forgotten about it, and today when Ranveer Allahbadia comes and cracks such a sick joke, and rightly so, not only under section 67 of the IT Act, but also 296 of the BNS, and also under the also violating the modesty of the women. That too is an offence which has been committed. It was 509 earlier, but I think now it is section 79 of the BNS, that you are violating the modesty of your mother, I mean, that who is also a woman. So with these sections being violated upon, I think we must, even though he has apologized, but he needs to be penalized for this.
Ishtaran, what do you make of the debate around this, free speech versus filth?
Pranesh, as the laws exist in India, this is clearly falling foul of that. Everybody needs to have self-regulation. I am a believer that because we do not have pre-censorship on social media, we need to have certain amount of sensibility in what we put out there. Like, for example, you cannot put out under the garb of free speech activities of sexual nature involving people below a certain age limit. I don't even want to put the age limit out, right? That would clearly be a case of abusing your speech. Similarly, this comment is extremely egregious. Of course, that has led to a reaction from the society, which nobody is surprised about, because the society will react. You may think you live in a bubble, but please understand, this was not a stage show where only 50 adults have come, and you are having a free speech enclave, and you are not pushing it out on social media. When it gets pushed out on the social media, the algorithms, the reality is that it gets pushed into every face, including the face of youngsters. And both parts of the comment, would you keep watching your parents have sex, as well as would you join in, both are extremely objectionable. I am, of course, not a person who believes that you should lead to arrests for things like this, and definitely not National Security Act. That is, I think, going way too extreme. But at the same time, such speech cannot be tolerated. These speeches have to be not only this comic. Pranesh, see the larger perspective. If it is not stopped, then what is the limit of stopping free speech? Are you going to do away with obscenity laws, IT laws, every law away? Because that is the only context. Because this speech is clearly falling foul of the law as it exists today. Okay. And that law on such speech has a semblance, because most of the audiences going to these stand-ups is very young, is extremely young. What are you trying to put in their mind? And you are influencer for a reason, because you have the ability to influence people. So of course this is egregious, this cannot stand. This video at the very least has to come down, otherwise you encourage 1,000 more videos like this.
No, bring down the video. That in fact Ranveer Allahbadia has said himself that he will request the makers to remove this part. But Karan, do you agree with the arguments that endorse arrest?
So Pranesh, I'm not in favor of arrest, but it must be called out here that this is neither bold humor or dark comedy. There's nothing humor, there's no humor or comedy here. It's crass, filth and disgusting, to say the least. And Pranesh, for a long time, people have gotten away because the obscenity law hasn't been that clear. I remember when the AIB roast happened back in 2015, the High Court said it's vulgar but not obscene. So, you need to understand the distinction. Then they started with the Hicklin test, which says that it depends whether the individual is affected by it or not. Now they've graduated from individual susceptibility to community standards, as in the Avik Sarkar versus the state of West Bengal. So, you take any community standard, whether be it contemporary or any Hicklin test, it is offensive and it is downright obscene by every metric. And Pranesh, it must be understood here. When we have the Cable Regulation Act of 1995, which determines, there is a regulation which guides what kind of content goes on mainstream media, there has to be some sort of regulation. We can't have a free-for-all obscene content going around which reaches the mobile phones of young people and everyone. And this should not be cushioned with the words freedom of speech and free speech absolutism. No, this is not free speech absolutism, which can tomorrow give rise to crime, which can affect depraved minds, as in stated in the law. So this has to be curbed. I'm not sure whether he should be arrested, but definitely an example needs to be made out here and a stern message needs to go out from here. Because until that doesn't go out from here, we'll have themes like incest and pedophile being discussed openly on the web. And this needs to be curtailed, because this is what gives rise to such perverted minds and perverted crimes tomorrow. And also, Pranesh, a word of caution for the millions of subscribers that he has. They also need to reflect. If millions are watching this kind of content, the kind of content Samir Raina has put, then it's a commentary on how we are as a society, where we fall for this trap and enjoy this kind of stuff. We also need to take a step back and reflect how far we've gone as a society in this.
Dr. Ranganathan has been listening intently and, rather patiently to, I also think he was making notes or writing something. But Dr. Ranganathan, to start with, mainstreaming incest or perverse ideas, would you, bring it under the ambit of free speech and justify it or dignify it?
Good evening, Pranesh, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Look, I, like every sensible person, am absolutely appalled and disgusted by the comments made by Ranveer Allahbadia, or Beer and Biceps as he's known. If his intention, quite frankly, was to be as sickening and putrid as possible, I think he's succeeded. Even Freud, who invented the term Oedipus complex, would have thrown his hands up in astonishment at what the incestuously deranged Ranveer has suggested. Ranveer clearly needs clinical or psychological help or something else. As to the second issue of the danger to impressionable minds such utterances can have, yes, I do agree this is an issue that needs to be addressed, because unlike a film that gets an adult certificate, here even children are exposed to such demented and deranged thoughts. There is unrestricted access to all content, adult included, and that is clearly a problem. Finally, on the third issue, on free speech, my stand is well known. I am against any kind of censorship or arrest. To censor any film, book, play, show, idea is wrong. Why do I say this? Because censoring or curbing freedom of expression is always a subjective decision, always. Look, we are a deeply polarized society. This isn't objectionable because polarization means you have a clash of ideas, that there is competition among them, and so it mirrors Darwinian evolution. Science, religion, capitalism, communism, right wing, left wing, Modi, Rahul, intimacy, pornography. There's nothing wrong in professing diametrically opposite likes and dislikes and views, even if you hold entrenched views. But the problem comes when one party, one ideology, one dogma, one film board, one system controls the discourse or weighs in on it. That's when you stop being objective and start to editorialize and play God. Because selecting what to flag, what not to is a subjective decision, much like taking offense or an abuse or appreciating or condemning an idea. Till recently, homosexuality was a criminal offense, was it not? It still is in many countries. What is offensive to you might not be offensive to me. Who is to decide what will cause offense, what will offend religious sensibilities, what is pornography? Finally, you want the truth? Behind our collective clamor to punish someone for his words lies our fear that our hypocrisy and double standards might be exposed. We are a scared nation, Pranesh, and the first refuge of the scared is sanctimoniousness. This is the same country that reveres a man in his mid-50s who marries a girl child not yet 10. This is the same country that has anointed as father of the nation someone who abetted the murder of his own ailing wife by denying her the life-saving drug penicillin against the doctor's advice. This while he gladly took quinine when down with malaria. This is the same country that has anointed as Mahatma someone who is in mid-70s, not only indulged in sickening incest and slept with his underage grandnieces and either forced or coerced multiple young women to sleep with him, but later gloated, quote, all women strip reluctantly at my prompting, unquote. This is the same country that knows these pedophilia and incestuous thoughts are facts, but dare not mention them. And so a scared nation becomes sanctimonious. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
Dr. Singh, can you handle the truth? Who is to decide what is offensive? Ishtaran, I'm coming to you after this.
Pranesh, these highbrow intellectual debates, of course, are there for people who have the grey cells and the intellectual depth to understand and appreciate them. In my span of 36 years, I've handled perverts of all shades and colors, including AIB and others, and all kinds of buffoonery and this kind of nonsensical things. And let me tell you, I have made it an act of faith. There are occasions when you have to be cruel to be kind, and this is one such occasion. My words may be harsh, but I have been these things have been extremely effective. Never did I have any other opportunity in my career ever. An applicant from any buffoon, any person self-styled narcissist, any self-styled person who thinks that he is a non-conformist and can get away with this disguise of freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is welcome to it, and you speak to yourself. But if you're breaking the rule of law and transgressing the rules of propriety, there will be consequences, and the consequences will be such that you and your family and your progeny will shudder to think of the consequences. Therefore, I take the strongest exception to the fact that we should take this misdemeanors lightly. I have come down heavily like a ton of bricks on all such perverts, and with very effective results.
Ishtaran, how would you respond to Dr. Ranganathan? He says, let him be. If you don't like, don't watch.
No. Pranesh, I very rarely find myself in the middle because I am also known for my views. I do not agree with the learned DGP's view who believes that NSA should be invoked, nor do I agree with my friend Anand's view. Because if this is not translation, it's not about an insecure society. Let me give you an example of USA. Janet Jackson was doing a Super Bowl halftime show and some singer pulled her top aside, and it's a famous scandal called Nipplegate. And she had to pay, or the channel had to pay $500,000 in fines. Later on it went to courts and some judgments came on that. So even in US, so-called secure, so-called free world, when people have gone to watch a football match, they have gone with the youngsters, they have gone with kids, they are not expecting that. Or secondly, that Raj Kundra case, where you have an app and you can say it's bold movies, but it's an offense. Either we believe that there is nothing obscene, then you will say pedophilia is not obscene, then you will say no speech is obscene. So either we are going on direction that nothing is obscene, you can say anything, you can promote anything, which no country in the world allows. I do not know of any country in the world. Some countries will have problem if you are sporting Nazism. Some country will have problem if you are going into pedophile. Some country will have some problem, some will some. Because there are community standards. Now, I do not believe in arrest. I started by saying I am in a, because this is a clear case of transgression of law. But I don't believe speeches should lead to arrest, except one category, narrow category, because when you are insulting gods, That also came about because one side has sar tan se chants. So you have to have an equal law. Accepting that any speech but action has to be taken. The trial may need to go on in a case like this because there is no justification for having videos on social media saying go watch your parents having sex or join it. And worst part is, because what is be different, I got to know that there's some foreign clip and the joke is also copied. Now that is very common in India because there is no
actually,
whether you are doing
it's not about whether the joke is copied or not. I'll tell you, viewers, just think about it. If Ranveer Allahbadia can get influenced and say the same thing that he heard on a clip or watch something and said the same thing, imagine. People who follow Ranveer Allabadia may consume this and then echo the same sentiment. Dr. Ranganathan, that frankly is the fear.
No, absolutely. And, I do partly agree with Karan. I don't know whether what I said was he was able to hear, because I clearly made a distinction as to what Allahabadia said, and the other thing was the platform. There are laws if what he said was adult and that adult material, and that could be heard by children who are or people who are not adults. So there's clearly a distinction. And there I agree. And I said so myself. That was the point number 2. The third point was what I made was what is in contention out here about our hypocrisy and double standards. Because what he said, and I would like you, I'm not daring you, Pranesh, but I would like you to go around the panel and ask, should a man who a mid-70-year-old man who indulged in incest and slept with his grandniece openly, should he be called a Mahatma in this country? Ask your panel, yes or no.
No, we've had, that discourse is endless.
Then it is double standards. Then it is double standards.
Karan.
I very rarely disagree with Dr. Ranganathan, but it's one of those occasions where I, to certain sections I don't agree with, and I'll just point them out. He said that yes, it is vulgar and crass, but this cannot be held against him because we are a polarized society. We have different opinions. Who decides what is how offensive and what? There are certain things, Dr. Ranganathan, where you've crossed a line. For example, pedophilia. And this is exactly the logic that those who entertain such thoughts, pedophilia, they've gone on to give it labels like minor attracted persons. And they give the same logic that we have a right to our own sensibilities. We have a right to our own opinions. So we have to know where to draw a line. This is an incestuous joke. So by any standards, whether it be the contemporary community standards or anywhere, I am not discussing the hypocrisy present in our society, but for this particular case per se, this is of course offensive, obscene, and the law must take its own course. Now, whether we give him a long rope and say, okay, this is a one-time off, but at least let's admit this is obscene, even as per the law, and we cannot be free speech absolutists when it comes to something like this, which can give rise to criminal tendencies. We have the POCSO Act, we have certain acts which are determined as illegal.
Dr. Ranganathan is responding, Karan. He won't say
no Karan, 1 second. Yeah, Karan, 1 second. Let me remove the confusion. I am absolutely against pedophilia for the very simple and logical scientific reason that it does not involve 2 consenting adults. So it's very simple. That is a crime. You are not talking of pedophilia in the same bracket as any other offense that is created by words, because pedophilia is actual crime because it does not involve consenting adult. Having said that, would you like to address one of the examples that I gave, that we freely accept a pedophilia, we revere someone who indulged in it? So let's not go there.
Ms. Abha saying,
I will address it. No, I will absolutely address that. Pranesh, let me just make a small point. I absolutely agree with Dr. Ranganathan on that point. We are not discussing that. This debate isn't about that, though I agree with him there. But here, when we are talking about this is an incestuous theme that he's touched upon. And even if there were 2 consenting individuals, pedophilia, or even if we remove pedophilia or child sex for that matter, would still be offensive. It would still be illegal. So consent is not here. Some people commit suicide, it's their consent, but it's still illegal. So consent cannot be a badge to wear and get away with anything. Even if it is consent, it does cross a line in certain crimes, in certain cases. So this is one of those instances.
Okay, Abha Singh.
taking a wrong trajectory. What the topic here is something very different. What Allahabadia said, and I would like to say, if we are talking of freedom of speech, then even on freedom of speech, there are reasonable restrictions of decency, morality and health. So public morality. So this is where it has attacked. His statements have attacked public morality, decency, and none of us are there to say, I support his being arrested or I look the other way. The law of the land has to be upheld, and some of us are lawyers, and for lawyers and for everyone, that is the prime thing. If you violated the law, then you have to bear the consequences. So it is not Mr. Vikram Singh's personal choice or anyone else on the board saying that no, I don't support arrest. But yes, if you have violated the law, then it is the matter has to be heard, the FIR has to be registered, and let the magistrate decide what the punishment should be meted out, not you and I. But if a law is broken, saying sorry does not absolve you of the crime that you have committed.
Okay. Yeah, Ishtaran. Dr. Ranganathan, just 1 minute. Let Ishtaran just come in. I'll come to you.
Pranesh, two short points. There is an overwhelming tendency in our police forces to arrest for every crime which does not require an arrest. And Supreme Court has many times castrated that. As I said, this is a clear transgression of law. If the law exists, an FIR has to be registered, the trial has to go on, but I am not in favor of arrest. That was my limited point, but the case has to go on. Because if this is not transgression, then the law should be struck down, because this is a clear case. The second aspect I would try to answer my friend Anand. Because society has hypocrisy, and all societies in the world have hypocrisy, that I do not think is any legal defense to somebody committing a crime. You do not have Article 14 in crime that if somebody has done a crime, I have done a crime, you have not arrested him. Firstly, those are very different topics, not speech issues. But this is a clear case of transgression, and hypocrisy cannot be a defense for that. The only limited relief I believe Mr. Allahabadi should have, or anybody else should have, is I don't favor arrest for cases like this, but a trial and a court case definitely should go on. Because imagine, we are discussing pedophilia. What if two adults sit and discuss pedophilia? No child is involved. That is still a crime. Same way, when you are telling kids, go watch your parents having sex. They have kids 10-year-old, 12-year-old. Should they knock? Should they look through the windows? What are you trying to encourage? Of course, it cannot go on. And also a lesson needs to go in society and to future comedians and to future podcasters that please don't abuse speech so much that you force government to regulate it.
Okay. Dr. Ranganathan.
Yeah, no, very quickly. Look, it is not my case at all. I repeat, at the risk of repeating ad nauseum, that some laws may have been transgressed. Of course, we have hundreds of thousands of laws. Many of them are unjust laws, but they are still laws. For example, tomorrow, it is a seditious law, a law of sedition that says if you criticize the government, you can commit sedition. Now, for me, that is wrong, but that is still a law and a person will be punished for it. My simple thing is, as a society, when Miss Abha Singh talks about, look, he has offended morality, I want to ask her, does she believe homosexuality is immoral? Because it was a crime till not so long ago, was it not?
See, let me tell you, till the time it was a crime, the law of the land had to be upheld. The day it was decriminalized,
you feel?
You have to go by the set standards, what the law says. So till the time it was a crime, people were arrested. The day it was decriminalized, Dr. Ranganathan, the law was not applicable. No cop will come and arrest. So even 67A of the IT Act, the day it was struck down, issue was solved. Otherwise, you had two young girls who had just done clicked like in when Balasaheb Thackeray had died, they were brought to the police station. So you are going by the law of the land, and you also, by trying to talk of Mahatma again and again, are you also not trying to talk something bizarre to get some people talk about it? So I think Allahabadia and you are on the same tangent when you're talking like this.
Look, that is what I said. The first refuge of the scared is sanctimoniousness. For once, don't say whether a law is good or bad. Stand up for what you feel. Don't tell me what good or bad laws are.
No, why not? You don't have to say a law is good or bad.
Homosexuality being immoral or not?
Go to the parliament and
do you have the right? Do you have the guts to say so?
Go to the court and get the law struck down.
According to you, there are no bad laws then.
If you feel it is good or bad on a TV debate, file a PIL, get the law declared ultra vires. You have to do something. It is not just couch debating. If you say law is good or bad, then please take a step and get it struck down. But till the time a law is a law,
कोर्ट जाएगा तो lawyers क्या करेंगे आप जैसे? अगर साइंटिस्ट कोर्ट जाएगा तो आप जैसे लॉयर्स क्या करेंगे? If you believe homosexuality was wrong, then you should have stuck for it.
You go to the parliament, get the law changed. No, but till the time the law is there, the police will act. They will be
That is
arrested because
superfluous.
if you are violating the law.
That is not an
Okay,
argument.
okay. Now, 1 minute. Dr. Ranganathan, let me try and simplify this for our viewers. 1 minute. Are you saying that this episode, this controversy is needless? That this outrage is, not justified, misplaced?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
Pranesh?
Yes, sir.
No, this needs to be discussed because I think the thought is appalling. But then there have been multiple appalling thoughts, and I just told you about how offended Miss Abha was just at the mention of quote-unquote Mahatma Gandhi because she doesn't want to be confronted with the truth. You see, people in our country are scared. They take the easy refuge out. It is very easy for Abha Singh to say Mahatma Gandhi was Mahatma, but Ranveer is something who's done wrong. It's very easy for her because it doesn't offend her sensibilities. That is the problem. There is hypocrisy that needs to be exposed.
Ranveer Allahbadia is doing. And I am saddened to say that people bring up such issues only to get cheap popularity.
Dr. Vikram Singh.
And let me tell you one more thing. What the law says if a person is dead, no Pranesh.
No, ma'am, he's clear on the law. I think, I don't think Dr. Ranganathan, you are saying the same thing, ma'am, on the law, specifically on the law. He says whatever the law of the land is, that must be applied, and whatever punishment, if the magistrate deems fit, should be given. He is only talking about the larger aspect of the hypocrisy in society. That's his limited point. He is not saying that, look, you spare Ranveer Allabadia because he's appeared on his podcast. That's not his argument. Dr. Vikram Singh, there are many people, sir, who are of this opinion that netas are indulging in this because, they want to play politics and arresting people for, things like these may not be the best way to go forward.
Pranesh ji, it may not be the best, but it is debatable, but it's certainly a very effective way. Let politicians play politics. What more can they do to us? And let them be whatever they are best at. But the rule of law is supreme, and this is by far the best legacy we can bequeath to the successive generations. Not all this nonsense that Allahabadia is churning out. I don't even know his full name. I give you an example. If there has not to be a deterrent punishment, then let me tell you, there are two people. One is teaching you Sahaj Yog. He has about 8 subscribers and about 28 views. There's another person indulging in pornography like Allahabadi, and he has 10 million subscribers and perhaps 40 million views. And therefore, if there has not to be a deterrent on the faithful implementation of the rule of law, then Pranesh, I think we're going way off the mark. My personal opinion.
I agree with that, sir, but I don't think, you are of the opinion that Ranveer Allabadia or any content creator should be penalized because, they have more followers or following or views.
Certainly not. They pander to a basic instinct, and that is why they have. It is not because they are highbrow, they have a scientific temperament, they're coming out with sublime truth. It is because they pander to something that is absolutely crass, vulgar, and indecent. That is why. I don't say that. But the fact of the matter is they are making money on pornography, pedophilia, incest, that is the time when the law should step in. And I have absolutely clear in my mind what I have done in the past and what any young police officer should do.
Dr. Ranganathan.
No, Pranesh, as I said, that it is superfluous argument talking about whether laws exist. Of course, laws exist. But I am against bad laws because who is to decide what is offense and what is not? There is a woman in this country against whom hundreds of FIRs were registered, all because she quoted a religious scripture. Are you for it or not? Do you have the guts to say that was wrong or not? You can take the easy route out and say, well, the law of the land is being followed. But have the guts to stand up and say that in this country, there are laws that are applied against the woman who simply quotes a religious scripture.
Karan.
Pranesh, it is, firstly, let me answer the DGP because it's a little worrying when you say police should punish. The job is to investigate a case and the courts have to punish. And that is why I said the trial must go on, but this arrest for speeches is a very dangerous territory. And when you start arresting for speech without a full trial, and you do not need to arrest, the video is on public documents, you can seize all digital devices, you can investigate the matter. It is not for the police to, which was coyly suggested, to teach a lesson, spend 24 hours in police station. That is abuse, that is brutality. But unfortunately, a lot of policing involves that, but it should not involve in cases of speech. It's not a terrorist that you need to probably have that sort of policing. So we need to have the distinction also.
Okay.
Now let me come to the other aspect of this, what my friend Anand is saying. See, please understand, hypocrisy is there in society, but the question is not another analogy, is that what speech was made, whether law is good or bad. Unless you believe obscenity law should not exist and then it will not cover anything, including pedophilia, what has said it is good law and this transgresses that law. That is the limited point. Hypocrisy cannot be an answer.
Okay, Karan, you have the last word. Sum this up.
Which is needed in society, because you cannot have people talking about parents.
So Pranesh, as much as I agree with Dr. Ranganathan on the hypocrisy bit, I have to tell him that when he searches for grey and subjectivity and time and again says who decides what is offensive or not, it gives a free pass to all these woke loonies who time and again use the same logic by propping up homosexuality by saying, oh, homosexuality was also frowned upon up till not too long ago. They start justifying child and minor attraction. So we have to draw a line, and as intellectually stimulating as it may be to say what is grey, there are certain things which are black and white. Just as pedophilia, incest and this kind of talk is black, this is wrong. We should not entertain thoughts of, oh, we have a right to opinion, oh, there is subjectivity, oh, there is a different viewpoint. No, this is where we draw the line. This is unnatural, this is illegal, and it should not be entertained.
Let's see what happens in the case, viewers. Let's quickly shift our attention to the other story we are tracking.